Hello everyone, my name is Florence Onwusu. This presentation is for my Florida International University class for financial crimes. And my topic today is a question which is: did predatory lending and fraud help set the stage for the crisis we just experienced in 2007 and 2008 in the financial market? So, what is predatory lending? Well, there is no specific definition for predatory lending, but according to the Attorney General of the FDIC, predatory lending is basically a lender imposing some unfair or abusive loan terms on borrowers. And with any most things in life, this kind of schemes does change from time to time. And with that being said, I would like to say, based on my research, predatory lending tends to originate from things that are bought with large amounts of money. For example, when you're purchasing a car or a house, because when you make those kind of purchases, you get to make down payments. Now, this is very important because for a lender who is trying to take advantage of a borrower, it never made any sense to me until now as to why a lender would give a loan to a borrower that they cannot pay. Well, they give a loan to borrowers that they cannot pay because 6 months from now or a year from now, when that lender cannot pay that money, you end up being the owner of that property, because not only you as a lender get to benefit from the deposit, because when it comes to housing and car purchases, people make huge deposit down. So as a lender, you get to keep that money and you get to repossess the property. To me, that's a bigger strategy, not to care about what happens to the loan. And also, as far as the lenders not caring about the loan, another good reason that I found during my research is that the reason why most of these banks and lenders don't care about the loans that they issue is because they get to send this loan to Fannie and Freddie, and the loan don't stay in their books. They do not experience the losses, so they don't care. They send it to Fannie and Freddie. What is Fannie and Freddie? Well, Fannie and Freddie is the two biggest housing mortgage financing company in the United States. They are guaranteed by the government, okay, to buy these loans from lenders and from banks. Now, I have been asking the same question: why will Fannie and Freddie not set the proper rules and regulations in place to make sure that, for their own sake and for the survival of their company, that some rules should, standardized rules for these loans that are issued are made? There's nothing wrong with subprime lending, but it should be done with much more specific rules, just to make sure things don't get out of hand like we just experienced with the housing bubble busting. So Fannie and Freddie has been blamed, and we know why, because the company went bankrupt. The federal government spent billions of dollars just to bail out Fannie and Freddie. And even till now, the housing market still hasn't, it's still, some people say it's coming back a little by little, but what is going on with Fannie and Freddie? There is no other big institutions out there that can replace Fannie and Freddie. So I know Fannie and Freddie has been ignored recently, uh, but in the long run, it's either they restructure that company or they find another company to replace it. But whatever company replaces it, rules and regulations must be in place to make sure the company is viable and not go bankrupt and not result in more bailouts in the future. So that is my take on that. And so now, well, during my research, I discovered that there are a lot of opinions on this issue, because a lot of people say, well, Nobody put a gun to people's head to go get a loan. So who cares? They got the loan, they can't pay this and that. But some other reasonable opinions say, well, when it comes to purchasing something big as a house, okay, this is not something for most people. Then you can do more than once. They buy a house, that's it for the life for their lifetime. So they haven't been through something like this before, and it's easier for somebody who is a professional like a lender to be able to take advantage of regular people and steer them not for their own benefit but for the lender's benefit. So it's easy because they did not take any responsibilities for the loans that they issue, because they have somebody who they're going to dump those loan and mortgages after. And another point that I would like to make is that now I think Fannie and Freddie does have a good business model, which is the loan that they get from these banks. They scrutinize it. Securitization is what they call it. They securitize it, package it, and sell it to other investors who are able to make money from investing in those loans. But hey, when the loans is worthless, nobody's gonna make money. That's bad, which is the reason why I think that should be a big reason to for Fannie and Freddie to have a big you know regulation in place to make sure that things are set properly as far as their books being healthy. um well, another thing that we like to touch on is a very big case example we experienced not that recently but in the past, about some of the companies that have been involved in this kind of predatory lending. And one of that company is called Countrywide Financials. Now Countrywide Financials is a company owned by Angela Mosello, who's a native of Bronx, New York, and he founded this company in 1969 with a partner. And this company, Countrywide Financial, was heavily involved in issuing some prime mortgages. As a matter of fact, the Department of Justice brought filed some lawsuit against Countrywide Financials for this kind of practices. I mean, it is the first time in history that the federal government has been able to bring this kind of charges against a company and won big. The settlement was 335 million, something like that. And I think the alleged allegation was that Countrywide Financials was purposely and intentionally discriminating against blacks and African Americans when it comes to the issue of subprime lending. And the claim is that when Countrywide Financial received African American and Hispanic um, people as their customers, they just put them in subprime loan. They just give them subprime loan without the consideration that these people are good for prime loan, the good loans. I mean, the federal government charge is that when, for example, white people comes in, they get prime loan, but when Hispanics and blacks come in, they push them towards the subprime loan. You know, department, and this was their findings and their allegations, and the federal government won that case, which I think was a big deal because you know that was a lot of money that was won by the Justice Department against the Countrywide Financial for discrimination against African American and Hispanic borrowers. Now, well, recently the Obama administration have enacted some laws, to protect consumers in the area of predatory lending, which is what I think is a very big deal and good news. And uh, I think the name of the enactment to make those changes is called the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. and it was passed in July of 2010. And the act addresses numerous components of mortgage reform and anti-predatory lending reform. And so, based on those laws that was enacted recently, now lenders and mortgage originators and banks have to take more responsibilities for the loan that they issue to customers. So there was some specific laws about that put in place just to make sure the kind of predatory lending we experienced recently will be reduced. So that is the conclusion for my presentation, and thank you very much for watching.